everybody. Welcome to my favorite shitty movie. I'm so excited. We are here tonight to talk about 1996's Ode to Americana, maybe. If you're kind of into perverse Norman Rockwell takes, maybe this is your film. It is called Uncle Sam. The great William Lustig, best known probably for Maniac, the Maniac Cop trilogy, also a Robert Forster classic in its own right, Vigilante. He's the man. He's writer, director. He also is, I guess now, a curator for Blue Underground, which specializes for nerds like probably us watching, great kind of restorations of cult classics, exploitation classics, midnight movies, everything from like Asian to Brazil horror masterpieces. Blue Sunshine, I think, is one of his best 4K, on Blu-ray. He saved that film from really bad transfers. He's a great guy. So we're here to celebrate his directorial effort on this. Also, as was the case with the Maniac Cop trilogy, his screenwriter is the great Larry Cohen, who, if you haven't seen this stuff, you really should. It's a wonderful film amongst many that he's done. But anyway, so we're here tonight, and we have a fan favorite, and I guess returning, I think she might have the record. She might have the record in terms of being a co-host with us, the great Dana Guerin, who, when she's not rocking and rolling for, reproductive rights for everybody, also produces cool horror movies. I've said it before, I'm going to keep saying it. If you haven't seen Deborah Logan, what's your problem? Get out there, watch it. It's proof that found footage doesn't have to be dumb. In fact, it'd be quite scary and really, really well done. So we're excited to have her back. Before we get too much further along, I do want to bring up my crazy cohort, who tonight is playing the role of Maniac Todd. He's wonderful. You know him as Todd Anderson. Mr. Maniac, welcome.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Maniac Todd.
Amazing.
People don't know about William Lustig's Maniac Todd.
They don't. They should.
It got ignored as sort of like a spin-off type of deal, and people didn't take it seriously.
It was ahead of its time. It was like Tremors, really.
Robert Davi says if he had been in it, it would have been a bigger hit.
Oh, is that what the MAGA guy said? That's cool. Nice skin on him. So Todd, talk to me. How old were you? When did you first see like Uncle Sam? Did you see it at the theater, or did you discover it?
No, I bought Uncle Sam on this Blue Underground DVD.
There it is. Okay.
Sight unseen. Just because of all the names you just listed and the people who were in it, I was like, how can this not be great?
Right.
And I watched it, and at the time, my first reaction was, I like that, but golly, it really looked like shit. It's so low budge in that 90s direct to video way, where it feels, I mean, if they shot it on film, God bless, but they made it look like they shot it on digital video of some kind. Or like Super 8 tapes or whatever. It doesn't look great, but the spirit of the thing is fantastic. Okay. And all these horror icons are in it in varying degrees, and they all have kind of great stuff. Bob Forrester turns into a firework. It's very delightful, and it seems almost fan servicey in a way, but you have to be a fan of these guys, these filmmakers, Cohen and Lustig in particular. And they were such a New York thing too. Those guys, and this is
and also I feel like this one is a variation on a theme that you get with Maniac and Maniac Cop trilogy, where usually back in the day, I don't know, it's controversial now, but once upon a time people respected police officers. That wasn't a very controversial thing to say. One of the lessons of Vietnam should have been, we can thank the soldier for their service, even if we don't agree with the politician's reasoning for getting one into a war. That the soldier is doing their job. These guys, Cohen and Lustig, have no problem talking about murderous serial killer cops and soldiers who kill off others in friendly fire and are just sociopathic and really subverts the norm.
Yeah.
Put this film out in 96, right? So this is obviously pre 9/11, but post the first Iraq War, some of us would say debacle. And so he's marinating on what's going on out there, but doing it in a genre film where it's small town Americana. You've never seen.
Yeah, it worked on like watching it now, because I haven't seen this in a bunch of years, but watching it now, it worked on a whole new level for me as a political allegory for our current times.
Yeah,
it really feels prophetic in a certain way. Given Uncle Sam is the monster,
you love that.
And what like has sort of become of our government because half our country has lost their gourds, and we're all enemies now. We're not fellow countrymen anymore. It's the way it worked on me on those levels. I was like, wow, that's weird.
Yeah,
Cohen and Lustig were good like that. They're the horror guys who, we were talking about Romero the other week and his allegories in all his horror movies, and I feel like these two guys are the same way. I mean, if you look at the stuff, and it's alive, and even The Winged Serpent, it has a lot to say about class structure.
Well, I think there's also, I think it was a Larry Cohen film, oh, look, it's Katie. She's like, hey, where my mom is at? There she is. Hi, Katie. I think part of it, is also, if you go back to Larry Cohen's, was because God said so, or God told me so.
Oh, yeah, and God told me to, yeah.
God told me so. That really talks about evangelical fervor. That also feels very contemporary and current in 2024 lenses. But I want to continue this conversation, but I want to bring up our amazing guest this evening, who graciously agreed at the last minute to come in and help Todd and I figure out what in the hell happened to Uncle Sam. For those of you who've been asleep under the rock, or maybe it's been a minute, or maybe you're imbibing, I don't know, all of which is fine. Just to remind you, the great Dana Guerin, producer extraordinaire, lover of all things, bad film, great film, and really was bold enough to do Caligula at one point on this show, which I will forever be indebted for, and introducing many of you for the first time to Tiptoes, which is still one of the most special films I've ever seen. I want to bring her back to the program. Tonight she's playing the role of Patriot, but we know her as Dana Guerin. Dana, welcome back to the program.
Hi, Patriot.
Hi, friends. Happy to be here.
Nobody's going to stab you with a flag. You're a patriot.
No. I'm a patriot. I lived through this movie, which is really, really, really important to me, even though if I lived in the small town this takes place in, I sort of felt like it, like you do at like apocalypse movie. I always play would I want to live? Yeah. Oh, never sleep again, or join pod people. I'm like, no, pod people seems good, peaceful.
One of your amazing daughters has, Mom, what pants are you wearing?
Oh, she is in the know. Should I show you how in the spirit I am?
It's a pant reveal.
Okay, we haven't figured out exactly how to do this, but
Woo,
I have these laying around.
As one does.
With no use. So there you go.
Were they flying off the back of your truck and you're like, oh, hey, I should wear those tonight?
Honestly, I remembered it about 5 minutes before coming here. But the best part about this is I actually came from a work Zoom right before this. And I've got this little secret under my desk that I'm in Diedrich Bader's pants from Napoleon Dynamite. But very serious top. Good hair today. So
all that counts. All that counts.
The magic of showbiz. Magic.
For real. So Dana, because I know when I mentioned this to you, you had not seen Uncle Sam. So you just watched this with fresh eyes as a first-time viewer of this 1996 film, but you're seeing it for the first time in 2024. Initial thoughts?
Well, I mean, I do find in life, if you have really low expectations, it serves you so well. And, as soon as you said Bill Lustig and, I was like, well, yes, I have time for this. What are initial thoughts? We'll go into the fact that it could have used some on-screen kills, but there was some nice aftermath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was all that. You're right.
It was so ahead of its time when they were talking about like the silence of women and domestic violence. Like in the middle of it, there's this really powerful female forward conversation about him being an abuser and that they didn't speak about it. And then when they bring it up, it's not believed. And it's a really powerful movie and moment in a movie that is not worthy of that scene at all. But yes, I loved it. I love the kid who desecrates everything 4th of July. Like Jesse is definitely my dude. And, like he can't even like do a straightforward 4th of July sack race.
Yeah.
He's just bad for the 4th of July. And you know, they really tried to get every pun and you know, every
like this is the guy.
That's my dude. That's Jesse.
He screeches the most profane, grotesque, Nirvana-esque rendition, right, of the Star Spangled, and they're like, "That's enough. That's enough."
I assumed
next
this is
to him,
homage to Roseanne, right? That's
yeah, it had to have been.
There you go.
I meant to look up the date when she did it, just in case. But then you got next to him. So the guy next to him is the mayor. And he really, really, really wanted to be the mayor of Amityville, but ended up in Hicksville, USA. And he has one of my favorite moments in the film when he's like, "All right, guys, we got some dead people. That doesn't mean any of you should leave. And we're just going to keep partying." And I was like, that is the mayor.
So we've had a tragedy, but it doesn't mean the barbecue has to end.
Let's not.
Except for the fact there are 2 heads on the barbecue. Well,
If-
you know, we have a lovely fruit salad.
If we don't have the barbecue, then the terrorists have won.
That's right.
That's true. But, you know, at least when Amityville, you saw people coming to the island. You saw the money coming in. You saw the commerce. Here it was just like the town showed up in someone's yard and brought their crippled children and shoved them in people's faces.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are we? I love that scene. Oh, I can't wait to do it. All right, let's get to it.
This kid is amazing. There's so much going on in this movie. Let's start with, again, the poster art should be just cherished. I think July 4th will never be the same. I want you dead, Uncle Sam. I mean, come on. I mean,
and it was also one of those 3D. Todd will know what they're called when you've got the that cover that kind of changes.
Oh,
like
right.
This one doesn't have it, but I remember a lot of them did.
Yeah, it was straight to video, so they had to make it splashy.
Fancy, yeah.
It's amazing.
It really is so straight to video of that era. It's just a particular style that they all had, which is not good.
Far be it for me to stoke controversy on their program, but I would argue this film is better put together than some of the recent huge Netflix films I've been seeing, like Atlas comes to mind. They had a hell of a lot more money, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell that was. This at least knows what it is, does the best it can within limited means, which, again, here for the DIY of everything. But I do feel, and Larry Cohen always wanted to say something, as does Bill. So Dana, walk us through as best you can. How the hell this film opens, right? With this, we can't really go there, so we're just going to overlight things. Pretend we're in Kuwait.
I know, which is so totally in a field, probably exactly where they did the 4th of July parade. They really don't do anything to dress it up. They're like,
It's probably the producers, like, Hummer. They're like, we're just going to light it like
the barbecue's already going, and there's a slide. But,
of course,
it's Kuwait because it says so.
Well, it says so, and they're, of course, in Kuwait. It's famous for its James Cameron blue cinematography.
What's the movie where they make hay out of that as a joke? It shows you New York City, but it says Rio de Janeiro.
Oh,
there's a movie that did that. Like every time an establishing shot, they told you the wrong place.
I don't know, but I'd watch the shit out of that.
Yeah, I love that.
I remember it being very funny, but I can't remember what it was.
All right. So we're in Kuwait by way of like Sherman Oaks, let's say.
We are. We're in someone's backyard, Kuwait. And so they come across a dead soldier and they talk about friendly fire for a minute. And this is one of the few failures of this otherwise genius film is I don't get Uncle Sam, and I guess that might be a big failure because is he dead? Is he undead? Did he die? Did he come back? Was there voodoo? Was there, why on earth? So I think he's dead. They make some comment about it being okay because it's friendly fire. Then he kills the shit out of the poor guy who's just reading his tag.
Right.
Is he dead? Was he dead? Did he come back to life? Was he dying? They don't care.
It kind of reminds me of that movie Death Dream. Did you see that?
No, I am
That-
failing you on every level tonight, Todd.
That's a movie from the late 70s, early 80s. It's called Death Dream, but it's about a Vietnam soldier coming home.
Oh,
But he acts weird and he's cold, like to the touch. So, and then people in the town start
is he dead? Is he
disappearing. Yeah. So it's sort of Uncle Sammy. That
Right.
this is like reminds me of. There's another movie. These are so deep cut, you're not going to know. But there's a horror, like another DIY movie that's a horror movie. It's called Satan's Little Helper. I can't recommend it enough. If you haven't seen it, it's a delight. But it's like those two movies smashed together, because in Satan's Little Helper, it's a kid who plays this game with Satan, like a video game with Satan,
That's
and
what
then
it
when
does,
Satan materializes with it, in reality, he's like, "Oh, cool, Satan! I love this game," and he thinks he's playing a game. And this kid, like, being into his uncle because he played with plastic, war soldiers, felt like that to me. So
This kid is so into his uncle.
yeah.
Yeah.
This little shithead, just the Hitler Youth. I'm surprised everyone's blonde in this movie except for the Hitler Youth. It's very weird.
But don't you feel like this kid is going to grow up to be like Ralph Reed? At some point, it's like he's like being groomed to be like if they're Boys of Brazil, it would be like this is the Ralph Reed version. The clown.
He already looks really tired. So
He does. Well, it's funny because you go from Kuwait, which, as we talked about, is like this Cameroonian
Yes.
kind of thing, and we have the same lighting set up in Twin Rivers, USA.
Because once again, Kuwait is in their backyard.
Yes,
Which is probably why he knows his uncle so well.
Yeah.
'Cause he didn't have to go far.
do we have a state called Twin Rivers?
I'm not familiar. I've heard of Three Rivers.
I can't remember all the states' names.
Chris is
I
correct.
don't
David
know.
gets the best costume.
Two Rivers, USA. It could be any
Oh.
state. All states have a Two Rivers and
But-
maybe a Three Rivers.
But famously, Three Rivers, which was even a TV show that Curtis Hanson did the pilot of. But Twin Rivers, I don't know. It's a good question. But we immediately meet like our Hitler Youth person, right? Who's like, "Hey, mom, like I knocked over a picture of my crazy Uncle Sam and I stepped on the glass," and talking to his mom, and it's an awkward conversation. Like,
And she is so calm about the fact that that cut
yeah,
is almost worse than some of the deaths. When that kid, so he comes in like, I had a nightmare, and his mom very calmly puts some tape on this gaping wound
yeah.
that goes all the way across his foot. I'm like, lady, like I know you wanted to sleep, but oh my god, the kid needs an ER.
Hill and I were screaming as soon as the kid was in the bedroom showing his bust. We're like, "Tell him to pick up the glass." And she just
No.
sends him back to bed. And she doesn't tell him to pick up the glass till the next day.
And you're right, Dana. She's so calm. She's like, "All right, I'm just gonna get a Band-Aid and some like peroxide." And I'm like, his foot should be like practically it's done. It's like John McClane level. Good luck running when
He's
Hans
like
Gruber
half
is shooting
hanging
out.
off by his.
She just takes her lighter. It's the 90s. Just cauterizes it. It's like, there you go, kid.
It's fine. But
And this kid's just adding 1,000. He's like abusing his. Uh-oh. Am I frozen?
no, you're there.
No, you're not. You're blurry.
You're blurry, but we can hear
Come
you.
back?
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
You see me.
Yes, keep going.
Yeah.
We got you.
Okay, I'll keep talking. So he's abusing his pacifist teacher, and he's really pro-war.
Which we should talk about. His like Timothy Bottom shows up out of like nowhere. Like he used to be top lining things like Roller Coaster, and now he's like, "I got 2 scenes in Uncle Sam." But he shows up, which must be a favor for Bill, directing. But it's interesting because this goes to something I wanted to talk about, and I think Todd alluded to at the top of the show. There's a jingoistic quality that's being subverted here, depending on your point of view. Although I could see certain people watching this missing that. But the idea of like this, you're right. This kid is obsessed with his uncle because he wore a uniform and he's fought for, and he thinks there's something very noble about the idea of war and killing for one's country. But it's a little disturbing because the kid looks like a creeper, and it's a little, and it's like, I just want to be like him. I just want to put on a uniform and go out and kill people. And we get the sense pretty quickly that Sam, before he went to war, was probably not the best of people. And then there's the peeling of the onion, unpeeling it rather, of the onion, where you find out he's a domestic abuser / rapist, started off, with his own sister and then moved on to his wife. And then what was weird for me the first time I saw this, and I was curious into having just seen it for the first time, like when you go from mom talking, right, of the Hitler Youth kid to this woman, they look so similar. I
know, it was so confusing. Who is the sister and who is the mother? I was so confused.
But it sets up.
I kind of took it as he only married the other one because it reminded him so much of the sister he was enjoying raping. I went full darkness.
Yeah, but it's again, and basic casting, it's helpful to not cast people that audiences can confuse, because the first time you see them and they're in the same house, you're like, are they sisters? Are they married? I don't know. And so it's not clear. And then you realize, oh, they're not related at all. It's only through marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then there's no discussion.
Well, that family has a type. Those guys have a type.
Yes, apparently. So then you get the first awkward thing of like, this again, cops being not portrayed to their best light, right? Where he's just basically, I'm on duty, but why don't we basically go up and have sex? And she's like, I don't think so. He's like, well, I'll be off in an hour. And like, take the hint. Like, could not get out of that car fast enough. And you kind of don't understand what's going on yet, but that's an attempt to set up the situation that Dana's talking about that will be revealed a little later. But then you go right from this awkward moment of, I don't want to have sex with you. You're on duty and that's wrong anyway. Good night. To the middle of the night, somehow the guy from the army, the great, Bo shows up, right? Bo, was it Hopkins?
Bo Hopkins.
I love him.
He shows up apparently at midnight because that's how you inform people that you found a body 3 years later, which makes no sense. But that's
what's super fun is he wheels the fucking body in her living room. It's like, bye.
Yeah.
Like, is that really how?
Jeff Luce, good trivia. Right on. The wife was on Saved by the Bell the college years. Okay.
That tracks. That totally tracks.
Oh my God. I'm so glad they got out of high school at some point. That's exciting. So they're notified, corpse, whatever. And then we quickly meet the great Isaac Hayes, who is, we find out very quickly, also a war veteran, I think from Vietnam. Was that because of his age?
Yeah, I think so. Or no, he was a veteran of Korea. No, it was the Xenu Wars, the Xenu Space Wars.
Oh, right. You're making a Scientology reference. I understand. I don't know when he became a Scientologist.
Can we talk about him meeting the kid for a second?
Oh, sure.
Oh, we can definitely.
Because, oh my God. So, no, this is where it gets nice for 10 seconds, but he's in the room. And the kid's looking at him funny, little Aryan Jody is looking at him, and he's, I guess it was supposed to be friendly, but he's like, you want to see it? Come with me in the other room. I'm like, what? No. What are you doing now? Where's this movie going? And it turns out to be his peg leg. And then so you're like, okay, I'm okay that it's a prosthetic leg. He wanted to show him. But then he goes, and just in case you were wondering, everything else was intact. So they go right back to where my fucking brain went when he was like, kid, you want to see it in the other room?
Right.
Like, I was just like, oh, and now he's talking about his penis.
Uncle Sam told the kid at one point that Isaac Hayes' balls had been blown off along with his leg, right? He was being asked those questions by our Aryan Jody.
Which Aryan Jody really wanted to know.
Well, I'm just saying he didn't volunteer that. He had to defend himself.
Well, I've only seen it once, so I'm going to assume you're right. All I know is I was uncomfortable when they went out, and then got comfortable, and then got uncomfortable again real fast. Real fast. It was scary.
Yes. There's a lot of discomfort in this film.
It's so true. But then he takes the medals, like Uncle Sam, he keeps like in an army supply kind of thing, brings it to school, which is crazy. And that's when he, to your point, where he shames, Bottoms, who basically admits, like, I was a conscientious objector. We didn't fight in Vietnam. And there was this awkward moment, Dana, you're right, because this kid is so weird, where he's like, Uncle Sam said you guys were traitors. And then Timothy Bottoms is taken back, because he said, I didn't want to fight in Vietnam. So, whatever, presumably went to Canada or wherever one goes. And literally he's like, oh, I didn't say it. Uncle Sam said it. And you're like, what? Why are you quoting the guy you didn't know? Because we've established you were 3 when he left. I don't, these are questions. Odd.
He's just calling awful things to the.
Yeah. Let's see. Is the visual of Shatner taking a bump intentional?
I did move the hand, and I thought it looked funny. But I thought it was more muting them, but I like your interpretation.
Talk to me hands giving William Shatner cocaine.
That's a good visual catch.
I kind of thought it looked like a.
I like it.
Okay, so let's start getting into the action. Now we got a body in the cousin's house when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
As one, no mortuaries in small town USA.
Well, and the cousin, I think, takes it because we find out as part of the backstory that she's like, the wife or the widow is basically like, I don't want him in my house. I already was terrified of him. You put him there to lie. I'm like, are they sitting Shiva? Like, I don't know what's happening. Like, why is this coffin there for 3 or 4 days? I don't know. So it's very odd, but like somehow we have corpse in a sealed coffin in the house. And this is where, God bless Lustig and Larry, they're trying for character development, right? So this is where you see that the other blonde in the movie, who looks like the other blonde in the movie, also has weird stuff with men, in that you have this kind of douchebag lawyer who the kid calls out and is not wrong for basically admitting that he's a shyster lawyer who basically for money found a loophole for probably a terrible client, and he got to win. And the kid was like,
the only time I kind of like Jody. He's so into paying taxes, and I love that.
It's every child's first.
It's the only time he's not a freaky Republican. I too believe we should pay our taxes. So, so yeah, he tones in real quickly that the lawyer has tax shields, and he does not approve.
Doesn't like it. Doesn't want to eat with him. Excuses himself. And then this guy, again, the other toxic male in the movie, right, leans over and tries to,
so fast after the kid leaves the room in the most awkward state it could possibly be, he slides over, tries
absolutely.
It's such a piece of shit.
And she's not interested either. So you have like these 2 women, then we'll find out because they've both been sexually abused by Uncle Sam. Mm-hmm. So this is 2 guys trying to portray that in a horror film, to Dana's point. Not sure it's the film for that, but good on you for pointing that out. But then we do this immediate hard cut to a cemetery where we're burning a flag.
Yes, it starts.
Go, Dana.
It starts right at midnight. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Am I here?
Yeah,
okay,
you're good.
Cool. So oh shoot, now I've lost the screen. So at midnight on 4th of July Eve, which I guess brings Sam power. So here's where it fails again, because zombie Sam is in his coffin in the living room with an awesome amount of latex.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And what looked like really painful contacts. But he is awakened because someone's messing with his grave that's not anywhere near him. But, there's fire, there's flag burning, there's swastikas, there's desecration. And then, maybe the kid unlocking it. They really don't tell you why.
Right.
And it just seems like such a big deal that Sam wakes up and goes on a killing spree. But this movie does not agree with me that that's a big deal.
Or he's a creeper.
Just because And they also, you never see him going anywhere. He's just appearing places. So, does he have powers that we should be talking about with that? Because he does.
Well, he definitely does. I mean, like in the
he
potato
gets
sack,
around.
Yeah, the potato sack race was it. It was one of the scenes where somebody was he was chasing somebody, and then the guy got away from him, and then he'd appear next to the guy, and then he'd get away, and then he'd appear again next to the guy. So yeah, he's got superpowers.
It's like the Michael Myers thing where he can just
or he's like Flash. So we see him for a second, and then he's really fast, so he can get to the next thing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But you go from this weird thing of like zombie Sam. He's a creeper, watching her sleep but doesn't do anything, and then we cut to random girl that we haven't established also being creeped on by a guy in the Uncle Sam outfit, who's not going to be the Uncle Sam we come to know. He's just basically a creeper on stilts looking at a naked girl, like any other, I guess, exploitation film. He falls over, of course.
Or any other dude on stilts. I mean, that's why people wear stilts.
We got to do a shout out because unlike most movies in this genre, that's the only ass we see, and no tits.
That's true.
That's it. We've got just for the 12-year-old boys. Here's a tushy. And I got to tell you, I thought the stilts were really cool when he's walking with them.
The only thing I remember about the scene, because I forgot, I thought in my head she was fully naked, but I only remember her leaning out the window and yelling at him, and whatever she's yelling doesn't look anything like what the picture.
No, and they definitely, there's no way this wasn't supposed to pay a little homage to Animal House. I refuse to believe that this wasn't just like a loving nod. And then this dude falls and just lays there until he very slowly gets attacked. I'm like, he could roll. There's so many things he could do besides accepting his fate like that.
Well, maybe he fucked up his back when he fell.
Yeah, there was a quick shot of her breast. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank God for Jeff. He brings.
Thank you, Jeff, for paying attention to the stuff that matters.
He's right. But so basically, the beginning of Uncle Sam's killing spree in this version of the movie, right? He's like, he takes the Uncle Sam costume, Sam stilts, to mask his zombie visage, as it were. The guys who were desecrating the flag and the tombs and all this kind of stuff, he pushes one violently into his own would-be grave.
Paints him red, white, and blue.
Yeah, and this is supposed to be a bone protrusion, which again, people study your makeup more. Come on. That's not convincing.
No, this guy was made of plastic. It's okay.
Yeah, and so then he's gonna bury this guy alive.
Slowly. Wait, can we talk about the fact that he did a hemline in between these two things? Because his pants are kind of perfect.
Yeah, it's true. He just was like, I'm gonna fix. It's
like, hold on, I got the machine right here. It's just a little light, so and I'm gonna.
Maybe he just did like that makeover that Melissa McCarthy gives Sandra Bullock in The Heat, where she just rips off her stuff and all of a sudden kind of like her bad suits turn into like an outfit in the club. And you're like, okay, I'll go with that.
I know the shorts. I love that scene.
He's like, those are Spanx.
He's like, all right, you were right on the shorts.
So good.
Okay, so he, my favorite Jesse was also desecrating over here, but somehow he leaves. So he could desecrate 4th of July another day.
Right.
And then the flagpole death, because everyone has to die slightly ironically in the film.
Yeah. Which is great. And then we're kind of going to like the festival, where all of a sudden you see that this guy is in the classroom.
Because here he is again.
And without this kind of like too much dialogue to get Timothy Bottoms alone. He's like, I'll go back to the classroom and get the thing with the thing. And so you can have the obligatory, to Dana's point, you don't see it happen. He just falls into frame after it happens.
Yeah, but the blood work is awesome.
Yeah, this is good blood work.
I like the blood work. And, why wouldn't an elementary school have a hatchet in the classroom? Like a sharp, real one.
All my elementary school classrooms had hatchets.
Yeah.
Is that how they kept you all in line?
Yep.
I
And
get it.
also, it's how we use them to chop up wood for the fires to keep us warm in the winter.
I remember doing paper hatchets, because we would do like, George Washington, I never told a lie with the cherry tree. So we were doing like paper cutouts, but we didn't have
Because
We didn't have
America.
actual hatchets.
we
I was
didn't have
thinking
the-
ashtrays for my parents, like ashtrays with my child handprint on it. I'm like, here, mom, and
Here, kids, go.
And I was
For
the only
your
one who
ash,
ever
Mom, I love
actually
you.
used those ashtrays. I
Happy
was the only one who
Mother's
used them.
Day. You know? The 70s were fucked.
Yeah.
That's how we came to be so weird.
I love it. I love it.
I used to give my parents little tiny square mirrors for the cocaine. That was
With its own new credit card. It's weird.
It was weird. We didn't get it.
It was so weird. I was like, "Wow, I saw this on SNL." So my Hello Kitty membership card.
yeah. yeah.
Okay, so somehow I forget how, because I only saw it once. Baby Jody is told his punishment is he can't go to the 4th of July parade. And as we know, Baby Jody is very patriotic.
He loves
And
that.
as he sits in his room, decides there ain't nothing you're going to say to keep me from celebrating our nation's birthday. And
he sees this burn victim wheelchair child.
God bless this Corey Feldman in a girl's wig with.
Yeah, Hillary said the same thing. She said, "Is that Corey Feldman's brother?" So,
Oh,
I don't.
I
think
love
so.
this kid. And we have to throw big love at mom. That's my
Oh.
girl, PJ Souls.
PJ.
And PJ Souls is not going to the 4th of July because she loves the 4th and she's not a patriot. She's fucking going there because her kid got burned and blinded in a firework mishap. And she wanted everyone to feel bad. She's like, oh, they're having a good time. I'll put a stop to that. So I already love her and want more of her, but that's kind of it, because then she, ends up leaving her blind wheelchair kid, wheels him out there and ditches him every minute of the day.
Yeah.
And then Uncle Sam kind of comes to him, maybe recognizing a fellow burn victim.
Not a clue. They do have this scene where he, this is it's a bad touch. He is caressing this kid's burn.
Yeah. But also he's whispering sweet nothings like, I will make them feel the pain. And
you see more than they do through your blind eyes.
This kid somehow has some psychic hyperlink to Uncle Sam in the 3rd act, ostensibly passed on by touch, because burn victim to burn victim, we don't know.
Once again, the film just didn't think we needed to know why.
Is he a reanimated corpse? Is he a zombie? Is he just a burn victim version of Sam who faked his death for 3 years in a coffin? I mean,
it's not a movie that's interested in its own mythology. It only wants to do the political allegory. Everything else doesn't matter.
Fair enough. I don't remember little wheelchair dude's name, but
we'll just call him Corey.
Corey,
yeah,
yes.
Corey
the second.
And then nobody seems to they're like, oh, it's a guy dressed like Uncle Sam, so we're not going to question it, which is this brilliant, this is how you hide in plain sight. This is what I love about Terror Train, where there's the whole conceit oh, it's New Year's. Everybody's in a Halloween costume, so the killer can keep changing masks around and you can never catch up to him. So they kind of have fun with Uncle Sam coming in and out of it, and no one questions it. It's literally the killer is standing next to
once again, they only had $2 million, so obviously they just hit up Party City and went and grabbed that shit. The same where I got these pants. Just, and there he is. Now you got a villain.
And then you have clearly a favor to the great director William Lustig here. He calls his star from Vigilante, the great Robert Forster, and says, hey man, can you do me a solid, just show up for a day? You can be this feckless politician who wants to make sure that there's going to be cameras here.
We'll almost give you the best death. We'll give you, but unfortunately we top it 10 seconds later.
Yeah.
It's a pretty freaking good death.
It's a good death.
Good.
So we go from toxic, again, all the men in this movie are basically toxic, right? So now toxic politician, then we cut back to, toxic lawyer playing Abraham Lincoln, talking to Isaac Hayes. And he goes off, and you're like, well, that guy dressed like Lincoln is probably not long for this world. But my favorite is that then you have.
And I wonder how he's gonna die.
I wonder, and then you see.
I wondered myself because you don't sit.
But you see the aftermath. We'll get to that scene. But I love that like Isaac Hayes comes across this, clearly sees those are not normal eyes with this kind of a response close up. I can't tell if he's acting or what's going on there. But like
different movie.
Sam lets him go. Even though
I have a clip of that scene if you want.
He also says something like, "Hey man, I'm cool," and it.
Oh, you're in uniform, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of.
Except that he's killed guys in uniform with friendly fire, so we don't know.
Because for a while I thought maybe he was there because he knew Sam was somehow reanimated, but then the kids say, "Hey, Sam's killing," and he's like, "No, he's not. He's dead." So I'm like, okay, that's not the plot. Okay.
Yeah. No.
All right,
Yeah,
let's
but
go to
then
the
then he turns around and goes after her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
It doesn't take him long.
So Todd, you have a clip?
Oh, I do, but I realize it's the later scene where
okay.
the
So
confrontation.
basically, we have somebody who should be concerned because he sees this not being concerned, and then we just do a bunch of geographical setups so we can pay off later a series of kills at the town picnic, starting with another cleaver.
I also want to point out that we are about to meet the only female victim in this movie.
Yes,
That's
and
cool.
I also
It's very random. Like most of these kill a bunch of women, and not this one. Not this time.
And also the close-up of Country Time Lemonade, which I'd forgotten was a thing that I used to drink and I liked. So that's a cool thing. I was like, oh, I remember that. So the girl who leaves the hatchet unattended so she could go smoke a joint, and our corrupt cop steals her joints because ostensibly he will be smoking them later, he thinks. Just to kind of give cover for someone, Uncle Sam.
On our nation's birthday of all days.
Yeah.
It really is an accurate representation of small town cops. I can say that as a person who grew up in a small town. That's what they do. They raid the parties. They take your beer and your weed, and you don't go to jail. You just have to go home. And what happens to the beer and the weed? Nothing. No reports need to get filed because nobody was arrested. They were just sent home drunk in a car.
Oh my God.
Well, that's awesome. That's the best part of the small town I've heard of today.
So we're at this town barbecue get together thing where we have the aforementioned sack race with Dana's favorite guy, Jesse, in the middle.
Here goes my dude.
People being a brute.
Oh
I know. Jesse doesn't even honor the sack race of adults.
No.
And one child. And Jesse's going around, and he's a badass in this fucking sack. He's kicking people. He's knocking people out of the way. And then, because, nothing is sacred with Jesse, he tries to cheat and cut through the woods.
Right.
And that doesn't go so well for my boy.
He runs into Uncle Sam, who decapitates him.
After, by the way, an extraordinary stunt fall.
Yes. That was a good
crap.
bag.
That was amazing, actually.
I loved this perverse sense of humor after he decapitates him. He's like, look at the dried blood on my hatchet, right? So then we cut to, Mom, who clearly is in front of this person and should see that her shyster lawyer would-be lover has like something going on with his head because like there's blood down his face that she never reacts to, but then she pushes him over and he has like a dead man's fall because #dead.
Well, maybe she thought I was part of the
I love that
costume.
in the next scene, she's just chilling and eating popcorn.
Yeah, look at her. She's like,
everyone gets over everything real quick in this movie.
Well, he was a jerk. I mean, I get it. He processed it quickly. But then we're back to the politician that's like, oh, they found dead bodies. Are we going to keep going? Like, unbelievable. And then we have the Bobbsey twins here who, again, don't seem particularly upset about all the deaths that are going on.
No.
And
There's no time to cry.
And this is the scene where they basically reveal to the teen boy or preteen boy, whatever he's supposed to be,
Harry and Jody,
we need you to stop worshiping this uncle you never knew blindly because of whatever your war worship is, because the reality is, he attacked his sister and beat her up and other terrible things, and then transferred that to the wife. And then there's this awkward moment where the sister's like, I really should have told you before you married him, but I thought that way it would transfer the violence from me to someone else. And I'm like, yeah, and I don't know why y'all friends.
Yeah, and like there was no reaction to I am admitting to you
None.
that I threw you under the fucking bus.
Yes, Jeff. Yes.
There's no time for tears.
Or anger or anything really.
Or any emotion. As one would have.
Or backstory or mythology.
But this is literally a teen boy being told, like, rape, abuse, and physical assault have occurred to the two women closest to him. And he's like, okay. Like, again.
No time.
Sociopathic, World War worshipping, I want to be like the guy who kills people in uniform, which is not a great look for most people. Then we cut back to the town barbecue where we have Robert Forster, we barely knew ye, tied up.
But we loved ye.
And turned into a human firecracker.
Okay. Now, there's some poor editing here because there's a shot of him as a dummy too soon because he's still wiggling around later on. But other than that, hats off to this. It's brutal. It's scary. And of course, since no one can act in this movie, the whole town's like, huh.
Yeah.
Fireworks are coming out of the, and he's like a senator or something.
This is a nice show. That's what I thought their reaction was, oh, this fireworks show is better than last year.
And coming right at it. And it, once again, would have been the coolest death, except his little Secret Service man comes running up to save him and gets thrown onto, there he goes. Oh, poor baby, with the big explosion. Lots of explosions.
That's the cop. It's the douchey cop. Yeah.
Oh, the douchey cop?
It's the douchey cop who then gets impaled.
But then somehow lands perfectly over here. But my favorite part, if you see, there's gore. There's like serial mom gore at the end of the pole, and I love it.
Yeah,
it's great. The top of that flagpole had to be so sharp. It had to be scalpel sharp to cut through him on that level.
No, he was thrown far because it's reality.
That's true. I guess the gravity kind of would push him. I just feel like you would get a little bit impaled and then slide off the side. I don't know.
They didn't have that kind of budget. No, he got very, very impaled very fast.
And the flag itself is not crumpled up or that bloody. They didn't think about the physics. We'll leave it there.
Well, maybe they did. I don't know. I don't understand physics.
I'm just gonna go with it for the impale. So all that's well and good, and then suddenly it's the oh my god, Senator blew up. 5 politicians there. Abraham Lincoln dude is killed. All these reveals of backstories that are kind of like inappropriate for this movie, but they go.
Kills happen so fast. They're like boom, 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 boom.
And so
but that's true about like all the 80s ones, like Friday the 13th. It's like it takes a long time for the kills to happen, and then they all happen really fast.
Yep.
And then you wait 20 more minutes to see if
then everyone would leave otherwise, even though their mayor told them to stay and not be freaked out that they were cooking ahead in the back of them. In the Kuwait yard.
So a bunch of people get killed, barbecue, decapitations, blah, 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 blah. And then you've got like Isaac Hayes, who's like, we got to get out of here. So you've got the kid in the wheelchair. Jody
just left. Everywhere they put the kid in the wheelchair made me laugh because first of all, the parents drive off because PJ Souls, and they're like, we'll just push him the 10 miles home. Like, you got the kid in the wheelchair, you're blind, fucking kid. Like,
the blind kid in the wheelchair is abandoned by his parents.
I know. They're like, Mom, Dad, your prop. No, so they wheel him 16 miles through the woods in the snow home.
Right.
He's left on the sidewalk at one point to witness something. Like, this is the most forgotten, burned, blind, cripple.
But he's so
saying weirdo.
Like even though he's a victim of all these terrible things and he's just surviving, he's also impossibly fascistic.
Yes.
So I don't know. I don't know.
Also, he has this unexplained pseudo link to Uncle
Right.
Sam that will come into play. But my favorite, in terms of a director playing around and not worrying about consistency or point of view or any of it, is that Isaac Hayes comes in, with our fascist kid, leaves again the blind wheelchair burn victim in the street alone, goes in the house, and you see that the Uncle Sam mask has been taken off and is just thrown in a corner. And then there's a reverse shot.
Oh, hey.
There's a reverse shot where literally, like, it's against the wall. So there's no version of anyone looking through these eyes, but they thought, it would be cute if we could frame the confrontation between Uncle Sam as his zombie self confronting Isaac Hayes, his war buddy.
I can show you this clip, Tracy, if you want to see.
I do.
This is the
I
clip that
dig
I
it
have.
the most. So
Here it is.
carry
Here.
on.
Come on. Answer the damn. Take a good look at me, soldier. You made me into this. No, you never fought for your country. You just killed for the love of killing. You're nothing. So just die.
That's exactly how it happened.
That is exactly how it happens, and there's nothing better than the way he said, "Die." Die.
And then he gets thrown through like a bookshelf or something, right?
As one does.
It happened.
Massively through a bookshelf that looks a lot like corkboard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It didn't hurt.
Once again, really good stunt. It's probably the same guy who had to flip around the hill in a sack. I
Yes.
say yay.
Oh,
That's my kid. That is my dude.
Red bias, ginger bias.
You're Todd. You never had a chance.
But then you get through this crazy beat where all of a sudden the kid who spent the whole movie worshiping this sociopathic war hero / zombie / has some neuron leak situation with the burn victim, like Ray-Ban wearing wheelchair child, all of that. The kid suddenly changes his mind and is like, yeah, I'm not into like Uncle Sam anymore. And so like he tries to like Jedi mind trick. He's like, you know what? I'm with you. Let's walk out of here together, friends. And there's this awkward shot then where Uncle Sam is like, okay. And then suddenly it's like my bodyguard, right? The kid is taking him out.
No.
This is my favorite kill in the movie. You've got the great Isaac Hayes with a cannon.
Yeah, you had to get a cannon.
Where he not only destroys mom's house, but you have a really good old-fashioned burn, like desperately just savage stunt work here.
And except you could see the burn that mask really badly.
Well, you can also see the perfect line of flames on the plank in front of the house, like, where it's like it's a perfect alignment. Only on the top.
The big happy ending is they blow up her weird little house.
They
And
blow up her house, but this guy's like, I think we've all learned a lesson, and I don't think I'm going to be able to like do war games anymore. But then just when you think that's the point of the movie, the last shot is literally a lift from Damien's smile from the original Omen, and we end on Creeper Kid trying to do the Damien thing as we freeze frame and go into.
well, because now I just assume now he's just a full-blown communist, and and we weren't that far.
I
away
don't
from
think
the full blown.
communist is the right word. I think
Okay,
it's full
so
on fascist.
We also have to talk about burn victim wheelchair Corey II, who, for no reason, when they're making their plan, looks at everyone and goes, well, yeah, he thinks I'm on his side. I'm like, when have you not been on his side? He's literally there protecting you and your best friend. Like, okay, now he's a new guy too.
He
Like
was in deep. It was deep cover. That's what he was doing.
Deep undercover.
Like was in it before he even knew that he was going to meet the walking zombie, reanimated, maybe be dead.
It's like Donnie Brasco. It's the same basic thing as Donnie Brasco.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's just like that.
So they blow up poor mom's house.
Yeah.
And, luckily the Party City costume is obviously flame retardant, as some of them weren't. We learned in the 70s the hard way. So this was after we had some of our own burn victims when we were growing up. They learned.
We had our burn victims and our JART victims. Both those things happened. You remember JARTs, the lawn darts? No?
Oh my God, yeah.
They were made illegal because people were getting them stuck in their head.
And also in their noses. The kids would fire them up their nose. And they're like,
the kids would stand in the ring where you're supposed to send the JART, and this giant metal thing would come down and stick in their head, and illegal. We can't have that happen to stupid people anymore.
But dude, we were feral Gen X kids. We were fine. We drank out of water hoses. We came home when the lights were on. It's good.
I loved the taste of water from a hose, like that metallic. I had no issue with it at all.
No, I didn't either. I liked it, but at the same time, I recognized that it tasted different than the stuff that came out of the faucet.
Yes.
But I liked it.
Yes.
Anyway, so that's the end of our nation's birthday, and
it is. But also, I want to give mad props to this with credits. Hour and a half, 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, and I liked the poem at the end they read during the credits, and the fact that this movie's dedicated, because I'm sure that made Lucio very.
Lucio, yeah. I mean,
I'm sure he appreciated that and was like, "Oh, this one, thanks, guys."
I saw. Did you see that movie? I really liked it. It's an indie horror movie. I think it's called In a Violent Nature.
Yeah.
No, you told me about it.
But it's good. But they do that. They do a dedication to their parents. This is for my beloved parents, and I was like, wow, if I was one of the parents, I wouldn't know what to make of the rest of the movie after.
Right.
Thanks, son.
Yeah, absolutely. You're like, I want to dedicate the onion field to my parents. You're like I don't, amazing. So wrapping up thoughts, Dana, why should people watch this movie? What final thoughts about it, and would you recommend it?
I so recommend it in all of its silly splendor. It's somehow incredibly watchable.
Yeah.
I think, I love practical effects. Give me just a mask and a floating head and, just a blood faucet, just a big old blood bladder. And I'm a really happy girl. And, and for women, they just go on a killing spree of toxic men. So
yeah,
that's kind of fun. And it's not even making a statement about that either. It's just kind of what happens.
Yeah.
Except for the poor pothead who gets her head in the grill.
Yeah, that kill seemed unmotivated and unnecessary, and almost like an insert shot in Humanoids of the Deep where they just put it in and you're like, I don't know that was necessary.
Well, I mean, I feel like they were going for some kind of parody of slasher films at the same time that they were using it for a political allegory for other things. So
yeah,
I think that's why they threw that in there, because if you smoke weed in a slasher film, you're fucking dead. You are dead.
True. If you take drugs or have sex, you're probably not making it through.
Even if you
I kind of took it that he was offended that she was smoking pot on this very important day where I guess he rises for 24 hours.
Right.
From midnight to midnight.
Because no soldiers ever
of voodoo, and he's dead alive, and spider monkey. Like I really wish they'd just spent 1 second telling me why. just
there was no why.
It's not healthy. This is not a healthy brain, and you don't want me filling in the gaps. You just don't. Because
Abby normal. Todd, final thoughts from you.
Oh man, I love this movie. When I saw it for the first time, buying it sight unseen on this DVD, I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted this dumb slasher movie. It's really no worse than any given Friday the 13th movie when you think about it. And
it has more to say.
It has more to say. Maybe it doesn't have as many actual penetrative gore shots that you get in a Friday the 13th. It's sort of like the before and after all the time. But once it picked that and it was consistent through the whole movie, I forgave it really quickly. I was like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
You don't see the actual kill. You see the before and after of the kill. I was fine with it. But like it or not, this is one of the very few 4th of July themed slasher movies. So if you're a slasher fan, you have to put up with it. It's not a choice. You have to watch it because it's like, how many Cinco de Mayo horror movies are there? Very few.
Not enough.
So you have to go with Pinata Survival Island when you're on Cinco de Mayo. There's no choice.
Fans of Cinco de Mayo suffer for their holiday.
Is it Candyman 3 that's Dia de los Muertos and Echo Park? No, it's Boyle Heights. It's set in Boyle Heights, right?
Yes. That's true.
So we need to work on that. Those are good holidays to be like, meh.
Yeah.
I'm glad we did this movie. It was newish to me. I didn't see it in 96. Definitely a pandemic horror binge when I was like, I'm just going to be in isolation and watch horror films. That seems healthy. And so this was part of my discovery in the genre. I am a sucker for holiday themed horror films, as it all started for me with Halloween, and I think it's great. I love actually Black Christmas, but I saw Black Christmas after Halloween.
Yeah.
But I love people who want to take a little bit out of the zhuzh out of holidays. And I feel like with the 4th of July, and I think, Todd, you were talking about this last night a little bit in the top of the show today. I think it's okay to not feel great about where we are in the world writ large, perhaps our country. And there's something about this holiday that really, I think historically, we always talk about the founding fathers. We kind of whitewashed a lot of sins, right? We kind of talk about yay, America. And now we are, regardless of your political affiliation, this next November, we're 5 months out from deciding, are we going to keep traditionally what has been the Constitution and our concepts in this country of democracy or not? And so to Todd's point earlier, which I really want to highlight and I agree with, watching this 1996, we're still kind of processing the Iraqi war situation, watching it through the lens against all the troubles in our world. Yes, it's a dumb, silly slasher film, but I think it's done with love. I think it's done, it's a lot more clever than it needs to be. It has a killer cast of, like, you were saying, who's who of what. If you like horror, your friends are in this film. It's great. But I did see it differently than I did during the pandemic because I'm worried about a lot of things that are on the horizon. And so for all of those reasons, it played a lot more subversive. And I think Dana is joking because she's one of the most brilliant people I know. She doesn't have a sick brain. She has a brilliant brain. And you're filling in things that are interesting, I think, because there are ideas here that may not be fully dots connected, but they are absolutely, I think, Larry and William Lustig together concerned about jingoism, concerned about rah-rah America, concerned about desensitizing rather to your environments. And what's the next generation going to do about it? And how much are we obsessed with, what's hero worship and what are we really liking and embracing? And I think that's even gotten more relevant in our TikTok influencers, whatever the hell that is, world. And so I think if you watch this for the first time in 2024, like Dana has, you probably will, you could, like Dana did, read into things, because I think they're playing with ideas that I don't know in 96 I would have felt this way. I saw it as a pandemic film. Now I'm seeing it in this hellscape we currently find ourselves in. So I just think everyone, if you like horror films, it's worth seeing. If you don't like horror films, it's not, to Todd's point, penetrative, violent gore. So you won't have to do this too much.
Kind of let you off the hook a little bit.
It lets you off the hook, but I think Dana nails it. It's absolutely watchable. So for that, happy 4th of July for my favorite shitty movie, Our Houses to Yours. And just glad that we got a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
I liked it so much more than I thought. At first, I was like, great, I'll be a political prisoner on my favorite shitty movie. But no, I'm in. I'm 100% in.
I love it. I love it.
That's why we love you, Dana, because you get it.
I get it.
All right,
I'm at your service.
You want to do this, Tracy?
Let's do, be bad, be best. Okay. I
What
know
is
you
that?
both are gonna
What?
have-
How's it go?
Go for it, Todd. You go first.
Right.
Be bad, be bad.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the idea of this segment is Tracy and I will present titles of movies, and Patriot Dana will tell us if they're so bad you shouldn't see them. That's a be bad. Or they're so bad everyone needs to see this nonsense, and that's be best. So I'll start with mine, and this is a William Lustig joint starring the late career of Robert Davi, who doesn't get work anymore because of his politics, he says. Maniac Cop 2. You have the right to remain silent forever.
One of the great taglines.
Dana, what's your thoughts on that one?
Number one, so much love forever and always for Bruce Campbell.
Oh my God. Yes.
Just, so much love that they got to make another Maniac Cop and then another one after that. It's a trilogy, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, but the Maniac
No, I didn't
Cop,
watch it, but
the Maniac Cop 2 Bruce Campbell thing is kind of bullshit because it's mostly footage from the first movie that they edit into the second movie. He's not really in it. It's mostly Robert
Silent
Davi.
Night 2? I think there's like 5 minutes of new footage.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
Naughty. I just have the deepest love for Lustig and Cohen and
So it's a be bad.
And It's Alive. I'm so in my zone with these people. I say yes, be best.
Be best. I'm in that top too. Tracy?
I actually, again, during the pandemic, I went back and I hadn't seen these films for a minute. And I watched all 3 of the Maniac Cops literally back to back. It was like a day.
Nice. You did a fucking marathon?
Oh yeah, I did Maniac Cop, and then like 2 days later, I did all 5 Death Wishes, and I was like,
holy shit!
I remember your Death Wish day.
I was like, oh my God, you guys, Death Wish 3 is everything.
What a day! What a horrible day!
Yeah, well, it was a horrible time. But I actually, it's so funny because I really appreciated Maniac Cop, which I know is a weird thing to say, but I think it hits the numbers. It's clever, it's fun, it was subversive in terms of the way cops were being used back in the day. But, and I know this will sound weird, I actually think Maniac Cop 2 is one of the rare instances of it's better than the first film. It makes more sense, and I think it's even more subversive because of the way it ends, where this psychotic cop, much like our psychotic Sam, the soldier, and this time he's a cop, he's guilty, he's terrible, he's part of the problem, he's a serial killer. He kills all these people, he dies, he comes back, he starts killing more people, but then through a Robert Davi twist of fate, without giving anything away, he is then somehow given an honorable burial next to real fallen cops who were good guys that he killed. And so it's so sadistic and sick, and you're like, oh my God. And then if the last shot of Lustig's Uncle Sam is the Damien smile, the last shot of this is Brian De Palma's Carrie, with the hand coming out. But this time it's like he grabs the badge and then we cut with a hard black. And I'm like, oh my God, it's so subversive. Maniac 3. I think Maniac Cop 2 is pretty well done. I think it's actually a really good movie. I'm not even shitting on it. Like, I think I like it a lot. I think it's the best of the series, and I think it might be Lustig's best movie.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take that. Robert Davi will take that. Bruce Campbell will take that. That's exciting. I love
all
that.
Right.
What's yours?
My be bad, be best, because I know you both have seen it, and I thought this is the time to vent. Dana, guess goes first. Patriot Dana. This is a relatively new movie. It came out, I think, 2 months ago. You've probably already forgotten it. It would be called The First Omen, not to be confused with The Last Exorcism. We're still milking the 70s, and I would argue badly. Dana, talk to us about your thoughts about The First
Omen can go fuck itself. Let's fucking talk about the fact that it's supposed to be an origin story, and apparently they didn't watch The Omen as many times as I did because they changed the like, excuse me? He was born of a jackal. It's like, it is famous, and they're like, no, he was born of this woman. I'm like,
Was it?
And unfortunately, I saw Immaculate first, which had similar themes, but freaking better.
That's what
What?
That's what Todd was saying too. I love this. Okay.
So I watched them back to back. It was dull. It was so unworthy of the Omen name. Like, give me the Omen too, where it's just meet this guy. This guy learns that Damien's the Antichrist. Kill him horribly. Like, no story. Just, my favorite one is the one who finds that the blood. He looks at the blood under the microscope and he's like, Antichrist blood. I must tell someone. Like, no. But dies horribly. Like, give me that. Give me the crows and all of that. But oh my God.
Yeah.
I was bored. I was angry because you don't take a film that is as worthy of love and multiple watchings, that is smart, that was well done, that launched a franchise, claimed to be an origin story, and not be an origin story.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the only thing, I mean, I'm curious. Do you think you would have had equally as strong a negative reaction if you hadn't just seen Immaculate? Because I did this the same way. I saw Immaculate, and then I saw The First Omen. And what blew my mind about The First Omen is it was exactly Immaculate, just with an extra added layer of IP bullshit. But all the story beats, all the big reveals, all the same. And the problem I had a problem with Immaculate, which was the same problem I had with The Omen, is that it was fucking obvious. You know what I mean? The twist is so obvious. It's like
obvious, but it really, it's just such a strong condemnation of the way the church treats women. And as someone who fights for women's rights and works for Planned Parenthood, I was guzzling it up. I needed it. It was therapeutic for me to be there and watch them silencing women and impregnating women. And that scene where he's got all the jars and he's like, all of these failures. And he's like lamenting the failures when by now that every one of those jars is also a dead woman. And he's not talking about that and is not affecting his psyche at all. Like I was there for that film. I was
so it was better.
And this, on the other hand, had nothing to say.
Right. Well, it was more. That's what you liked about this. The Immaculate had an actual allegory element to it that The First Omen did not. It's interesting that it does, because they're so similar. Their narratives are almost identical. But it's interesting that one has a pointed point of view and one's just, we owe this because of contractual obligations.
Yeah.
And one more thing, because it made me laugh out loud. And I am that asshole who giggles. I get the church giggles really hard when something's done terribly. And I'm just, I hate The First Omen so much. I don't care if you haven't seen it and I'm giving it away. Fuck The First Omen. But three times they reveal that it's Damien from the original movie. They're like, oh, and here you see him handing it off to Gregory Peck. Oh my God, didn't know that from the title, the trailer, and the fact that this is where the story. And then there was something else where they were like, oh, look that. And then the last line of the movie is like, his name is Damien. I'm like, three reveals the same thing. Like, what the hell?
And a very well-reviewed movie, like Immaculate was. They're both equally well-reviewed. I think they have almost.
But then again, I figured they're the people who liked It Follows and all that other crap. Just
oh yeah, some people like that, and I rewatched it again because I was told by people who I love that when they watched it a second time, it wasn't so bad. And I watched It Follows the second time, and it was still boring. I still don't get it.
I had to see Exorcist: A Believer a second time because I thought I took a nap in it. And then when I watched it the second time, I realized I fell asleep 5 minutes in and missed the entire movie. I'm like, oh no, this is all new.
Yeah, I'll watch that thing again in the same way that I will watch both the prequels again eventually.
Interesting.
Because and The Heretic too.
Yeah, well, The Heretic is like Citizen
I mean,
Kane.
these
I love The Heretic.
I do too. But I love the joke where what was it? Billy Friedkin called it the Harry Tick as the sequel to his masterpiece. I wanted to talk about it with you guys because I knew we'd have something to say because I missed it. It came out in April and I was overseas and I was like, oh, and I had heard trickles like, oh, it got great reviews. And then Mike Flanagan, who I respect, said this is a 70s like thing. And I was like, oh, okay. So watched it this weekend for the first time. And first of all, I do want to say I thought it was beautifully shot. The cinematography is gorgeous. I appreciated the 70s score that it was going for. I'm like, okay, like the first fight, oh, Bill Nighy. Okay, now you're talking my love language, love him. And then it just nothing happened and it was super boring. And to Dana's point, I was like, you guys, the title kind of, it's like today, like 1960, in 1960, no one had heard the phrase psycho. So it was a surprise.
Right.
Now that it's vernacular, it's a common use word because of the 1960 film. If I'm like, you guys get it? He's a psycho. It's like, yeah, I got it. It's the title. It's like, you know, it's like Alien's not a reveal. What's it about? It might be a xenomorph.
I
Right?
don't know.
So it's like this kind of thing with this film. And so I was like so off to this movie because I couldn't believe how boring and long and slow it was. And again, the raping and abusing of women, that tracks for the Catholic Church for me. But the thing that's better, I think, Jeff Luce, if you're still watching, I think you had texted me that you had also, because I loved 30 Coins when it came out on Max, but because it was, you know, subtitled, a lot of people didn't watch it. I thought that was a great indictment of the Catholic Church with the same punchline that the first Omen's trying to say, except that one was interesting because there was a point. 30 coins, Judas, if you believe it, they were scattered. We put them together to what end? And what's that puzzle? And what will it look like? And that's intellectually interesting and had something to say. This one wants to be that, despite the score and the cinematography, which I loved. I was like, this is a terrible, terrible movie. And just when I was like, okay, I'm bored. And then I got angry when they put in a picture of Gregory Peck. And I was like, don't sully his picture by putting it in this movie. Like, it just made me angry that it was like the way I didn't like Rogue One. Sorry, Star Wars fans, thought it was crap. The entire plot of Rogue One is summed up in one line of dialogue from Star Wars: A New Hope. A lot of good people died to get us these things that the droid had, right? The Death Star plans. I got it. Except they weren't good people. They're not memorable. You never see them before. You won't see them again. And you can't quote the film. Other than that, there's a DirecTV that uploads it. And that's how. So I hated Rogue One.
Isn't there a thing where they go, I am the Force?
They go right to uploading the plans, which I know they're going to get because that's how New Hope starts. And then you see a CGI Carrie Fisher. This film comes out a couple months after she passed. So it pulls on the heartstrings where you backdoor into the original Star Wars film. The way you use Harold Ramis's, visage in the last two Ghostbusters lame films ago for emotional response. And I just resent the hell out of using Carrie Fisher that way, using Gregory Peck this way. Sure. And then the whole thing upset me. It made me angry. So I wanted to vent. So thank you.
I mean, I hope there is
not even close. It is a B worst of the worst kind.
You hate the first Omen. That's the thing.
I love Omen.
No, not the first.
Yeah, I was like, dude, what are you doing?
Not the Omen. You hate the first Omen. God damn it.
God,
that's
so
how
bad.
they get you. Do you want to do?
See, Jeff, I get it. I have friends that worship Rogue One. I am not one of them. I appreciate you guys that love it. I just can't with that.
I was fine with it. I liked it.
I was.
But I'm not looking for that much in a Star Wars movie.
Well, that's good.
My favorite one of the new ones, to be frank, is Solo. I think that's the most Star Wars, modern Star Wars movie. Because it's just stupid and fun and episodic. It's, it's like the first Star Wars. Do you want to do Indie Effect or the Boost next, Tracy?
Let's do Indie Effect.
All right, here we go. We're doing the Indie Effect. And this is the thing, Tracy and I will present characters from movies who we think maybe were entirely unnecessary to the narrative, like some people say Indiana Jones was to Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm constantly finding fun things with this every time I try to figure it out. Tracy, you want to go first?
I will. All right. This is a film that I love. It comes out. It's a response to Jaws. It's a killer bat movie. It is Arthur Hiller, the man who brought you Love Story, doing a horror film called Nightwing.
Oh, Nightwing.
Nick Mancuso, Catherine Harold. But here, the plot is basically Jaws with vampire bats. And it's set on an Indian reservation where you have an Indian chief, politician, and then an Indian policeman who are trying to fight for, do we bring in the, Whitey for oil rights to our organization, or do we actually keep sacred land? And so it's trying to be political. It's kind of interesting. It's Tony Hillerman, but not really Tony Hillerman kind of storytelling. But if it's Jaws with vampire bats, that means you have to have a Quint. And I love the great David Warner. He plays the Quint of the movie, where he gives you, this is all you need to know about vampire bats. But he shows up. He already knows everything he knows. Our Indian chief, who's the real hero of the movie, already knows what he knows. And the solution is with Abner. So this Quint character comes in, and he is exposition. His death means nothing because it happens exactly the same way, where you have, which is right, the Indian hero saves the village, and the white guy is like, yeah, I got myself killed. And you're like, okay, it's like
sexy.
He doesn't, but he is sexy. I was like in his like Jack the Ripper era.
Oh, great.
God, yes. To David Warner.
He's just
man with two brains.
Yeah.
He's so funny in that fucking movie. She doesn't do anything but this.
I love this film, and I love his performance in this film. But from an indie effect standpoint, he doesn't change the trajectory, because it was still going to be Nick Mancuso closing the circle because Abner told him to. It has nothing to do with the white guy going, bats can kill you and they piss ammonia. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing.
It's offensive, really. Here, I'll do mine.
All right.
So it's this lady who I love. Tiffany Haddish in Bad Boys Ride or Die. I don't know if you guys got out to the theaters to see Bad Boys Ride or Die, but I did. And there's like a 5-minute sequence where she shows up, and it's all this wackadoo high energy stuff. And the entire time I was like, what is my takeaway from any of this? Why am I looking at Tiffany Haddish? It's delightful. It's not that it's bad. It wasn't unwelcome. I was just like, I don't know why I went through that 5 minutes, but fine. It's fine. They were just throwing as many cameos as they could to make it fun.
I love her.
That's the Bad Boys entire thing. It's this one is not Michael Bay, but it's definitely done in the style of Michael Bay. So you have all that nonsense.
Yeah. Oh, Jeff, I was going to boost Bad Boys Ride or Die. I loved it so much. Go see it in the theater. Okay, Jeff. Take note, everybody at home. We got that.
I mean, I'm not saying you need to see it in the theater. I think it's perfectly fine to watch it at home.
Controversy.
But it is fun. I mean, if you like those kind of movies. If you do not, if you never liked anything Michael Bay ever did, you didn't like The Rock or Bad Boys or whatever, then don't.
The first Bad Boys I actually really liked, and ironically, that was, I think, one of the first times that I really paid attention to Téa Leoni, because she's absolutely stunning and beautiful, all true. But her comedic timing in that movie, the scene where they have her handcuffed to the steering wheel and all this action is going around her, and she's like, "What college did you go to?" I mean, like, she's just drop dead funny through the whole thing. And I'm like,
she's very good. Yeah,
and she's so good, and it's really hard to be a woman with any agency in a Michael Bay film. I think she's the only one, maybe. And I just was like, who is? And then between that and Flirting with Disaster, I thought, that lady.
Yeah.
If we were doing Carol Lombard movies anymore, she should be Carol and everything. Just tremendous talent. I'm biased, of course, but this one, I thought the last Bad Boy film was so unwatchable that the idea of sitting through this one after Will Smith.
Oh, really? You thought? Did you see Bad Boys 2?
No, I saw that the last one before this one in the theater before the.
But what I'm saying is, like, if you've seen Bad Boys 2, like I saw Bad Boys 2
I've seen all, but not the new. Because
Bad Boys 3 is 100 times better than Bad Boys 2. 100 times.
I don't think either is necessary. For me, they're both a waste of my life.
The first Bad Boys is also.
I love the first Bad Boys, but 2 and the last one.
But it's unnecessary. It wasn't necessary. It's not unnecessary. This is all just like popcorn dumb entertainment.
Yeah.
Bad Boys 2, I thought, like, offended me on a certain level too much. I'm not into like necrophilia jokes and shit like that. The misuse of MDMA, I'm not into that as comic fodder. So like whatever Bad Boys 2's like comic through line was, I didn't get. But the last one was fine. This one is also I'm like not a Martin Lawrence guy. Okay. I'm not a Martin Lawrence guy.
I could
but
read
I,
both
I,
of the two
I,
stars.
I will give him props for being very funny in Bad Boys Ride or Die. I thought
All right.
there was like good stuff that he was doing, and
Okay.
and he was almost Will Smith was almost charming enough to make you forget that he open-handed slapped a guy.
Dude, didn't he have enough goodwill from 50 years of not freaking out white people in Hollywood? Like, give the guy a break. Let him hit someone once in a while. You know how long that was coming? Give him a break.
Yeah. It's like I put him in a category with Susan Sarandon. It's fine if others enjoy them. I don't.
It would have been better if he slapped a white guy. That's it.
It would have
That's
been better
all.
had he slapped no one. Like a gentleman on. Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
All
All
right.
right. Let's do this thing. We'll end on a positive
We
note.
will end on a positive note because that's how we like to roll, everybody.
It's the boost. Tracy and I are gonna throw out a couple titles of movies we think you should see, whether they're old or new or maybe forgotten or whatever. Tracy, what do you got?
My choice will surprise like no one who's ever met me for like more than an hour, but I want to boost it because I think it's important and I've been waiting for years. Aliens, the
Ooh.
special new edition 4K Blu-ray goodness, but here's what's special about it.
What
It's
is
the-
that? Is that a movie? It looks like I don't know this movie. Is this a movie about ladies, just a lady and a girl?
It is. It's so
Well,
weird.
I'm not going to relate to that. I'm a man.
I know. It's so good. So what's cool about what Cameron's done is there's the 86 theatrical cut. There is the director's cut, which doesn't cut out the entire reason for the new, connection with Ripley, which is to say that Ripley wakes up 57 years of hypersleep and she finds out that her daughter, who she promised would be back for her 10th birthday, Amanda, has died a couple years ago. So she's missed her daughter. She's missed her life. So when she meets Newt, it cements that motherhood thing, which is interesting. And if you're a Sigourney fan, because hashtag, the picture she holds up in Aliens when she's in the holodeck, basically environs, and Burke is basically saying, look, we found your daughter, but that's the good news. Bad news is she passed away and you missed her. The picture that Sigourney looks at is her real mother, Elizabeth Inglis, who is an English actress best known for being the maid in Hitchcock's The 39 Steps. So Sigourney is playing to a picture of her real life mom who worked with Hitchcock as she's experiencing the death of her daughter in the Aliens universe, which I think is cool. Cameron did something that some nerds have a problem with. And the reason I wanted to boost it, because some of the nerds on these, and I say this as a nerd myself, so no judgment, I don't like it. 1986, there was a certain kind of film stock that Kodak was using that was really grainy. So when Aliens came out, it always looked grainy. And it wasn't because it was a lower budget film relative to the Fox budgets. It was a bad film stock that most cinematographers will tell you wasn't our best look. Cronenberg has the same film stock for The Fly. So if you look at the film grain, you'll know what I'm talking about. Cameron, because we now live in 2024, he took out the grain from the original film stock so that it looks what he wanted to achieve and couldn't with the limitations of the stock made available by Fox for his picture. So without it looking like cleaned up and whatever, it somehow looks like he wanted to shoot it and he worked to get it just right. And it's something I haven't seen before technically, and I was waiting to hate it because I don't think you should mess with things like that, except it looks great. And so I just wanted to boost that. If you've never seen the special edition, see it. And if you like the theatrical,
The new special edition, because I have the special edition on DVD, and that shit's not even enhanced for 16:9 TVs.
Correct.
It's
now
garbage.
Now it is, and so it looks gorgeous. And so I wanted to boost it because it's a rare instance, I feel, of a filmmaker getting to do what he wanted to do without altering the look of it, even as he's altered the look of it. And I'm not explaining it as well as I want, but if you watch it, you're going to see it. It looks like it just came out, but maybe slightly better. So,
What do you think about Aliens?
Who, me?
Patriot? Yeah, you.
I love it's very rare that the second movie is a totally different genre, and I do think it works very well. I grew up on it, and I like it very much. And Bill Paxton has that beautiful, like, self-sacrificing death that Always such a sucker for a heroic death
Yeah.
of the guy who was supposed to be comic relief. I'm like, ah,
Yeah.
like everything. It's a very satisfying film. Burke dies the way he should. The sound effects are so perfect.
The model work is incredible. The model work paired with that sound
Yeah.
design, which is why it got the Oscar, it sells things that I have to say I've seen this film. I mean, I stopped counting after I hit 200 in high school. True story. So I've seen a lot. But when we got into a low budget situation problem on the film that I just made in Belfast, I went back and watched it again, and I was like, we can fix some of the stuff because we won't have enough money for the effect shots that we would want in a couple of sequences. But because of sound design, and I really took additional inspiration from the sound work in this film. And so I'm blatantly, we're going to emulate, I think, some of the good work that they did back in 86 for the same reason they didn't have the budget either. And I just think it's one of those, it's the last gasp of practical pre-CGI. By the time you get to 92 and Fincher's, Alien 3, it's CGI and the alien has no weight and the sound design isn't there. But this one is that last, we got a guy in a suit that's well lit, And having worked for Gail, one of my favorite things she told me, she's like, well, Jim wanted to have his aliens. And so he's like, we're going to have a horde of aliens. She's like, we can afford 6 suits and we're going to reuse them and we're going to use mirrors. And that's true. They only had 6 suits for the whole thing. So when you see them crawling and, the gun is up and she's like, that's it, 6. And I just love that. I love that,
That's great.
Roger Corman's school of yes.
I feel like Jim Cameron was always good when he was working within restraints.
And with Gail
like
and
when he got to the place where, like a Spielbergian place, if nobody's going to tell him his choices are wrong, then his movies became less interesting to me.
I think that's good.
I think there's a lot to say about producers telling you no.
Agree, right, Dana?
I love saying no.
Good. And you should, because you're a producer. Here's my
What's
boost.
yours?
It is a movie that's out in theaters right now. It just came out last Friday. It's called Thelma. It stars a woman named June Squibb, which is the best name for an action hero ever. And this movie, like, it's not The Beekeeper. It doesn't have Jason Statham and excessive violence, but it's basically the same thing, but remove Jason Statham. So if Felicia Rashad's character in The Beekeeper hadn't killed herself because she was distraught by the scam and said, no, I'm going to go out and figure out where my money is and get it back. That's what this lead character does. This movie is so funny to me because it's paced and shot and edited and scored like it's a thriller movie, like it's an action thriller movie. Okay. But it's this 93-year-old woman and Richard Roundtree in his last performance on sort of like a knight's journey in the San Fernando Valley to try and get justice. And
I love that.
I can't recommend it more. I mean, the entire family dynamic in this movie is great. There's Parker Posey and Clark Gregg.
Fabulous cast. Why don't I know this film?
Because I didn't know until it came out. And on the day it came out, I saw the write-up of it, and I was like, oh, I have to take my mother-in-law to this. So we all went to it together. And I was like, movies like this don't, indie family dramedies, often I'm like, like The Day Trippers. That's a trip I rather would not have taken. But this is so delightful. And I think part of it is it's like told in a style of movies that I normally watch as guilty pleasures. Yeah. She's so good. I mean, this Squibb woman is so good. She's amazing.
Did she win for Nebraska?
What's that?
Did she win for Nebraska? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think she did, or she was nominated.
She was definitely nominated for it. Because she's adorable.
And this is her thing. I mean, it's, she's the lead and everything revolves around her, and everybody's very good. I mean, I didn't know how funny Clark Gregg was until I saw this movie. He's so fucking dry funny. I just can't even begin to
He's
express.
also just adorable. I feel like he and Paul Rudd are like Battle of the Cutes.
Oh, they would be great in like a buddy cop movie, I guess,
Totally.
or something like that. Yeah. I mean, it's just I just want to shout because I feel like this movie got no marketing really until after it was already in the theaters. I want people to see it.
Okay.
It's a movie that we should see in the theaters and support because we need more like it. And it's a miracle that it's in the Simi Valley Regal Cinema. This is something that should be in an art house in a Lamley or whatever, that I have to drive 45 minutes to, but it was right up the street.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So
amazing. Okay, everybody, you heard it here. Thelma, get out there.
Thelma.
Awesome. Dana, thank you for coming and playing with us on short notice and celebrating Uncle Sam. Yeah.
Woo!
This is sweet.
Guys, happy 4th, everybody. And for me, as always, go watch Jaws. Go weep for Alex Whitner and Pippa the dog, who accidentally shows up in another shot because no one cared. Favorite movie. Give it some love.
I love it. That's my 4th movie too. I always watch it.
Yeah, it's a great July 4th movie. It really is.
Right.
But it's not it doesn't nail the hammer on the head like Uncle Sam does. Uncle Sam
that is
really leans into the 4th of July thing.
I know, but that mayor who said, don't worry about the heads on the grill and stay in Kuwait Yard and celebrate would not exist.
Like Larry
It
Vaughn.
worked for the Jaws mayor, who I forget.
Probably related to Larry Vaughn. He's like a distant cousin. Yeah, he's like, yeah.
Because there's no purpose to it. This festival is fucking nothing to the town. So that was my favorite moment. I laughed for like 20 minutes. I'm so easily amused, though.
I hope that one day we can all together visit Kuwait Yard.
Yeah.
I think it's just in the valley. We could do that.
Yeah, we could do that.
Let's go to Kuwait Yard.
Happy hour. Yeah.
All right. We'll see you next week on the night before the 4th of July, I guess.
All right. Have a good week, everybody.
Bye, everybody.